Hello, everyone, and welcome to the LFC Roundtable Podcast. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and we are here to talk to you about everything that's been going down on the Big Brother 19 live feeds. Today, I am joined by the wonderful LFC team. First, I've got Melissa Denny with me. How you doing, Melissa?
I'm good. I feel like I haven't talked about Big Brother with you guys in a long time, so I'm very excited to be back, especially on Mondays, because that seems to be the day that everyone decides to get in a big argument. So I'm very excited.
Yes, Mondays, very eventful days. People, they stare at eclipses and they go blind and they can't join the podcast. People get caught up in court because they're too busy arguing to keep themselves out of jail. I assume that's what was happening. Very eventful days on Mondays. So speaking of, we do have Brent Welgemont with us here as well. How you doing, Brent?
I'm doing great. It's a very fun day in the Big Brother house. This is the Big Brother that I love. I have to say, after a veto ceremony, when somebody gets blindsided, it's just good times all around. And by the way, Taran, if my internet goes out or if it starts getting funky or wonky, just make sure to tell me, and I'm going to switch to something else, because I noticed on the feeds update with you and Rob today that my voice was going out a little bit, and I don't want that to happen this time.
Yes, that may also be cover for the pizza that he ordered earlier.
Yes, I was going to do Olive Garden, but Taran talked me into pizza.
Pizza's better than all. If you're going delivery, right, you got to go with delivery food. And Olive Garden, it's not great delivery food. But we've also got Alex Kidwell with us here. How you doing, Alex?
I'm good. This is fun. I'm listening to you blow up Melissa and Brent's spots, and it's like this is usually me. Usually I'm the one who's getting like all of the treatment. So I'm just sitting back and enjoying right now.
Well, I'm even-handed. I'll make fun of everyone for missing podcasts. And then one day when I miss a podcast, somebody will be able to make fun of me, but it won't happen. So we are here every Monday night live at 8 p.m. Eastern to talk to you about what's been going down on the feeds. We have the chat room open on not robhasawebsite.com because it's not there today. But if you so desire, you can go to chatwing.com/rob.sesternino if you want to join that chat. It will probably be a smaller crew because not a lot of people are going to do it. But if you go there, we will be watching it, and you can check us out and comment and everything like that. There we go, Kirsten, right away.
Yay.
Yes. All right. So you can send questions into me on Twitter at ArmstrongTaran if you so desire. But just to warn you, I usually take the questions before I start the show. So if you want to get them in, try to get them into me before we start if you're able to, but sometimes I'm able to catch some. But anyway, let's get into this recap. Let's talk about what's been going on this week. We have Jason winning HOH after a huge display of power, with him and Alex being the last two people remaining in the HOH competition. Matt gets annoyed with them. We saw that on the episode. The plan was nominate Matt and Raven with the fake plan that we're going to backdoor Kevin to keep them comfortable. And this fake plan is going to sort of blow up in Jason's face a little bit because Jason does win the veto and then chooses not to use it. And that's where we left off today with the veto ceremony. And Raven and Matt were none too pleased about this, Brent. Can you describe their emotional reaction to this?
Well, earlier today, Rob Sesternino asked you and me, so do you think that we're going to get more woof woof Raven, or do we think that we're going to get more, my back hurt, my leg hurt, my knee's bad? Like, are we going to get that Raven? And I said that we were going to get woof woof. And you said that you thought there was a very high chance that we would get sickly Raven. I can say once again, Brent is right. So we got woof woof Raven. She was not going to take this line down. Bitch was pissed. And I was here for it. She's been had. Matt's been had. And I will say also that the little bit that we saw of emotion from Robot Matt on the Sunday episode, but when it got down to Jason and Alex, when we saw a little bit of emotion coming from him, I feel like that was just a precursor of what we were about to get today. Because what came out of Matthew today, I honestly didn't know he had it in him. And then, of course, he totally blows it all away by saying he's going to try to get 37 penalty votes because he's done being a have-not, which I've got something to say about that too.
Homie. That's my core values. Homie, dude, bruh. All right. Yes. So,
and I can't believe that his whole thing. It's like they pick on something. He talked about Jason has to go. Jason's the veto holder. He's got the veto necklace. He's got to go back into the storage room to put it away with the box. And Matt is just harping on this like time and time and time again. Like you spent 20 minutes in there. Like I mean, even Cody didn't do that. I mean, come on, dude. Like be a man. Don't be a pussy, man. Like he constantly. That's what you do in this house. Apparently, when you're looking for a low blow, is you attack somebody's manhood. You call them a pussy. You say they're not being a real man. You got to take it like a man. I mean, like if I hear one more person say take it like a man, I'm gonna want to take it like a man. So yeah, I'm through with this.
Dude, that you just did was like so accurate.
Right?
Where he just keeps getting higher and higher pitched as he's getting progressively more and more angry. It was just like embarrassing a little. Like I just kind of felt like secondhand embarrassment for him.
I think I was mostly entertained by the fact that like every single fight we've seen this season has basically been with the same people. You get the same Josh. Oh, you're a meatball. Oh, what are you gonna do? You're a liar. You get Christmas like what? And then you got Cody, who's just kind of like a stoic girl, would get in your face, or Mark, who would just like sulk, and Paul would just be like, but Matt has an entirely different fighting style, and we get to see something new for once. Matt's fighting style is like, homie, homie, and he just will walk away, and he'll come back and he'll be like, bruh, no way. You're acting like a little bitch, dude. Why are you being a little bitch right now? A pussy bitch. It's just ridiculous. The whole thing was ridiculous. Alex, in all of your time being Matt's best friend, has he ever come at you like this?
No, but I can't say I'm surprised. This is kind of like what I expected sooner, to be honest. Like I thought that, if this guy was going to like play the game really, that he was going to have some kind of competitive edge. And like, I'm not surprised to see this, like knowing the culture, like where he works, like it's basically a fraternity. Like there's a lot of just broy dudes. Like this is the Matt I kind of expected to see all summer. So this doesn't surprise me. I've been surprised until today. But yeah, today is like the first day where I'm like, oh good. Yeah. The guy's got a pulse. Okay. That's awesome. And then, yeah, with Raven, her whole day can just be summarized in one word, which is, ooh, because like, that's like what she says when she's so angry, but she's like a toddler. Like she's got all this anger built up, but she doesn't have the words. You know how mom would be like, use your words, honey. Like Raven can't. So she gets all built up. And she's like, she wants to throw a tantrum or like hold her breath till she passes out or whatever. But yeah, I mean, ultimately it just comes out and like, and I don't even ooh. Yep, good argument, ma'am. You really,
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing with Raven, like we've seen, like I said, we've seen Raven fight. We know what she's all about. She's just bar woof woof woof. That's all I heard when Raven was speaking. The whole fight was ridiculous. It's basically Jason. He went into the storage room after the veto ceremony. He was talking with Alex. The whole point was that Alex was pretending to fight with him because Alex is trying to remain innocent of this choice. And Raven came in to yell at Jason, but they were like, oh, let Alex talk to Jason first. So then Raven went out and talked to Matt, and Matt was just like, why is he hiding? You're going to lie and then hide? You're going to lie and then hide? Stick to your core values, dude. Lie and hide. That's your core values, huh? The only reason that they were mad was because Jason lied to them ahead of. If Jason had just said, oh, I want to put you guys up on the block and I want to send you guys home, they would have been completely fine with it. They wouldn't have been annoyed at all. If Jason had only not hidden away in the storage room, then they wouldn't have been mad at all. We get this every season with every single person that gets put up on the block. They focus on one thing and they're like, if you hadn't done the one thing, I wouldn't mind, because they have no argument to like, oh, it's a game. And they're like, yeah, it's but this one thing, if it wasn't for the one thing. So very, very hurt feelings here. They go after Jason. Jason does his best here. He's basically just like, he's trying, and this is Jason we're talking about. So like, he does have a couple of slip ups. Brent, you mentioned that you felt like Jason was really going to spill the beans here. He did on one occasion say, yeah, I mean, it was the house's agenda. I mean, my agenda. And they're like, why didn't you say your agenda then? And he's like, because the house is my agenda, because I was HOH. And he managed to get through it. They do not suspect anything. So, despite all of the fighting, the status quo remains the status quo. Paul has kept everything in line, even though things got very, very tense at moments there, Melissa.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what was annoying throughout the whole thing is that Jason is getting the blame for all this stuff, and he's just cool with making everyone else look good in this situation. Like, he should have said everyone was in on this. This was a collective group thing. Like, why is he letting Alex look good and look innocent in this situation? How does that help him at all? It doesn't.
Paul especially. Yeah, right.
Exactly. And did you hear earlier how Raven and Matt were talking, and they were like, oh, can you imagine if he used the veto and then he put up Paul? And they're like, I know, that would be the worst case scenario. It's like, you two are an alliance together. You guys are your ride or die. You're in a showmance together, and you'd be more upset if Paul was on the block with you. It's insane.
They were legitimately like, wow, man, Jason went rogue. I mean, thank God you didn't win the veto, Raven, because if you had won, Paul would have gone up, and that would have been the nightmare scenario.
Or, you could have taken an apple and maybe gone for 2 vetoes, but, why would you do something like that? I don't know. It's just so ridiculous that we have 8 people left in the house, and we have, like people don't have their stories straight. Like, how are people not checking in yet with people they don't normally talk to? It's amazing that we still have people just trusting Paul to do all their communication for them with the rest of the house. And, if that continues, Paul's never going to get caught because, they're just going to allow him to compartmentalize their games until it's time for them to go home.
Yeah, exactly. I think essentially, we all just have to get with the program and understand that we're just watching a game for second place at this point, because everybody wants Paul to win. There's not a single person there who doesn't want Paul to win except maybe Kevin, but everyone's playing for Paul to win. So now it's just, who's Paul going to be sitting with? And that's the key. Is we're not going to have a satisfying game if we're thinking that someone else might win over Paul or that someone's competing for first place. It's all about who's going to end up there with them. And that's the only way we can be entertained at all for the next whatever amount of weeks. That's it. Is we just have to be excited about who's going to get second and who's going to get America's favorite player, I guess.
Well, I guess I'll say really quickly that the most interesting part of today for me was watching Paul desperately try to control the narrative of what was happening. He was trying to tell Raven, look, you can't go in there, you can't go off on them. And of course, she's not in the mood to hear this. She wants to go off. She wants her pound of flesh. He knows that when people get angry and then Jason gets talking, that something might come out and then he might be implicated. The most amazing thing was watching all 8 of them in the kitchen talking for 20 minutes straight, and then death silence for 10 minutes straight. And they just sat in there, and no one wanted to be the person to leave lest somebody else start talking about them when they leave. So it was just, it was such a cluster F today. It really was. And I have to say, more than anything, Jason, who got a ton of goodwill from all fans all over Twitter, managed to dispel that right away as we come onto the show tonight with a few choice words of his own.
Yes, well, I mean, the thing about the Paul winning situation is that we're seeing today that a lot of these people have been very comfortable for a very long time, and then now that they're getting put in situations that they feel like they can't get out of, they're starting to use their jury votes as bargaining chips, which isn't something that always happens, but when it does, you have to start to forecast that this jury is going to be bitter, right? They're going to be upset about things. The only thing Paul can do is make sure that bitterness is directed toward anybody but him, but he has to be very careful because we do see Matt and Raven talking about well, we're never voting for Jason in the final 2. We'll vote for anybody over Jason. We're seeing Kevin talk to Jason and say, I'm voting for you over anyone because that's my jury vote. And I'm going to tell people that, and I'm going to campaign against anybody other than you. Anybody that sends me home, I'm campaigning against them. People are starting to really talk about their jury votes. Maybe that's because Paul has been talking about jury votes so much. Maybe he's brought it into the conversation so much that in some way he's introduced his own downfall here if they are bitter against him. But this has been a talking point, Alex. Do you see this as something that's bad for Paul?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I think there's a lot that is going, and that's why, we keep coming back to this debate about how good is Paul really playing? How effective would this be if a lot of these people were trying? And it's hard, you can't know, but it's just it's amazing to me. Amazing that we can have so few people spend all this time in a short amount of space, and Paul's able to like there are stories floating around the house. There's misinformation floating around the house that just shouldn't exist. There's just no reason that like Alex and Jason should both be able to blame their hinky votes on Kevin right now. There's no reason that should work because it's two and they're both blaming Kevin and somehow like people are eating that up. And like, it's just short-sighted thinking. But yeah, I mean, this is just another thing where it's like, I'm looking at the Matt Raven situation and, you know, Josh and Alex in the storage room. And they need to be in the storage room to spend some time getting their story straight because they're sloppy with their execution. So they needed some time to make sure they were on the same page, even if they weren't going to stage a fight there.
And that's exactly what Jason said. That's what Jason said. He's like, well, we needed, I don't know, I couldn't tell if he said me or you, but he's like, we needed a few moments to get our thoughts together. And they're like, why do you need to get your thoughts together, dude? Like, come on, what who are you talking to here? Come on. And then his voice starts to climb a few more octaves, which is just, I'm just so tickled by because it's nice to see that he actually cares about something.
Yeah, getting your thoughts together is good. Usually you want to do it before you execute your move as HOH. Like one of those sleepless nights that you have all weekend long to think about what you're going to know. Okay. Yeah, I guess, I mean, just ultimately, this is going to be another thing, right? If people are going to go into the jury house feeling bitter, Matt and Raven might feel bitter at Jason now, but if they go in there, Cody's like, you idiots. Like, Paul, if you were going to take Paul to the end, like, of course Paul had to deal with that. Of course Paul had to deal with Elena. Paul had to deal with you to the end, right? Like, that really could backfire on him. And I think Paul, he's not necessarily wrong when he's saying certain things today about jury management, but like you said, Taryn, he has to be very careful. He's saying things today like, oh, Jason, don't worry. Like, I called the girl the C word last summer, and she still voted for me because Dr. Will talks to them. So don't worry. Like, he'll take the bitterness out of them. Like, you better hope so, because if you keep down this path, we'll see.
It was so amazing today, too, because, like, there is so much dirt on Paul that is out there, and everybody just seems to be sort of okay with him getting off scot-free in the situation. As I noted previously on the podcast with Rob, the only person who doesn't seem to be okay with that anymore is Josh, but Josh didn't really have a big hand in much of anything that was happening today up until, like, you know, an hour ago. So I think that everybody else needs to wake up a little bit. I mean, I know we've been saying this forever, but they really need to wake up. And, like, just, like, I can't believe two things. Number one, that Matt and Raven didn't basically say to Jason's face, you know what? Everybody in the house was plotting to get you out this week, and we're going to make sure of it next week, whichever one of us stays. And I also can't believe that Whistle didn't say to them, you know what? At the beginning of this week, the whole plan was to get you guys out of the house, and you guys were the ones who didn't know what was in on it. You guys aren't in the cool group anymore. I can't believe that those two things honestly haven't come out because I feel like in any other season they would have. And maybe they yet will tonight. The night is young.
Well, it's just so frustrating because they're too busy trying to protect the other people in the house that they don't want to give away any information. So like Matt and Raven don't want to give anything away because they want to make sure that Paul is safe and all those people are safe. So they don't want to tell Jason that they were plotting against Jason. And then Jason doesn't want to say it because he doesn't want to blow up the game of Alex or Paul. Like everyone's trying to protect everyone else. So everyone's content with not asking questions and not giving away any information, which it totally kills any gameplay. And it's very frustrating to watch.
Yeah, and I think get that vibe. Did you get the vibe on Sunday night? Like there was a nice kind of cutscene of DRs during the endurance competition that reminded me of the Big Brother 15 moment when Andy wins HOH. Right? Did you feel that way about it?
Yeah,
it's just like we got we checked in with all the power duos, and they all said like, I'm really counting on it to be either me, X, or Paul, and every single one of them. I think hats off to Paul, man. That's an impressive level of control. We don't see that often where everybody in the house is like, I'm really counting on this one guy. He threw it. It didn't even look good. It looked like he was like being stupid, which like now I think that's what you look for, right? Everyone seems to want to throw things by pretending to like goof off. So I don't think you should trust the goofing off anymore, but yeah,
I said that this morning that like we're totally gonna see a super cut of that, just like we did with Andy, and Paul's gonna be tweeting it out and being like, "Look at what a great game player I am." But I do think we have to credit Paul for the fact that nobody is revealing any information here. He really prepared Jason for the fact that, and Alex really pushed this as well, that like we're going to pretend that we weren't in on this. You're okay with that, right? Which it worked. Jason isn't revealing that information because he already knew that they were going to pretend they didn't know. He also goes out to Raven and Matt during the big blow up, and he's like, no information's getting revealed, right? Because you're still in the game, Raven. Like we're still in this. Like we're still getting to the end right now. You can't blow our spot up. And she's like, yeah, I got it. And even though he can't stop her from going off on Jason, he is able to prevent her from revealing vital information because she does feel like she does still have a good spot in the game. And I think it's really what's holding everything together is that Paul has them all convinced that they're in a good spot and that if they do anything to blow their spot up, then that's a bad move for them. So they feel like, yeah, well, Raven, she feels like I can blow up on Jason, but I can't reveal any information. And Jason feels like, you know what? I made this move against Alex's and Paul's wishes, so I'm willing to let them, get off scot-free, and I'll take the heat for this move because this is the move that I wanted to do. And he even feels like it might have been a mistake, although he doesn't say that, but obviously Alex thinks so, and so he's willing to sort of capitulate a bit and be like, yeah, it's all right. I'll take the heat. So I think that's why we're seeing that no information is getting out. However, going back to the jury thing, I do feel like Paul has made this a very personal game. I feel like Paul is the driving force behind that. And I do feel like, again, with all the jury vote talk, with all the like Raven and Matt, who have not had a great relationship with Jason throughout the entire game, are feeling this betrayed by Jason. I really feel like we're going to see a very, very angry jury, and that could very easily turn on Paul if he's not very careful about how he moves forward in this game. Melissa, what do you think about that?
Yeah, definitely. I think everybody's going to be super pissed off when they go to the jury, except not at Paul. And I think that's just going to be why he wins in the end. I think that people aren't going to get upset with him ever because they haven't gotten upset with him up until this point. So why start now? And, he's doing a good job of keeping everybody on his side. And I think it has to do with mostly with the fact that, he's played the game before and he's convinced them that he's helping them all and that he knows what to do and just listen to him and he'll guide them along to the end unless someone from the team happens to mess up like Jason here and puts these two on the block and, oh no, now one of you has to go home. But that wasn't my fault. That wasn't my original plan. And I think that's kind of the way that it's going.
Yeah. And that's why I do think it is, we talked about this morning, that it is in Paul's best interest to avoid blame as much as possible, get out all of the bitterness, the real vitriol at the people that are swinging the hammer at these people. And then once they get to jury, they can have it have Cody be like, you guys too? And then Mark yeah, you guys bought into Paul, what Paul was selling too. And then they're like, wait a minute, what? And then they can be mad at Paul, but they're not as mad at that point because they've already lost. The moments that you're most mad is the moment when you realize there's nothing you can do and you're already gone. And that's where Matt and Raven were today. And they will only progressively get less and less angry as time goes on. And once they do find out that Paul was the reason or one of the reasons why they went home, I do think they're not going to be quite as angry at him. That's why Paul needs to avoid being the person that makes the strike at Alex and Jason next week. Brent, I see you doing all sorts of nonsense.
No, it's fine. Well, the thing that I had a thought, but then you droned on for so long, it left my mind. So it's off here somewhere. I'm trying to find it again. I can't remember. No, honestly, I just think that Paul is. I still think it's better for him to own it now. I hear what you're saying. You're still Taryn, I love you. You're beating a dead horse. You want to make sure you're right, but you're not right this time. I still feel like it's better to own it in front of people now and let them at least know, hey, look, I'm stabbing you in the front, not behind the back. I swear when they go to jury and they find out about it, they just stew about it because they can't get their emotions out because their target of their objection is not there for them to talk to. That's my take on it.
See,
and I hope I'm proven right.
I don't think that I don't think they're ever going to be mad at Paul. I think that Paul's going to play this game where he's been playing it this whole time, which is have somebody else do the dirty work, get them to take them out while he's sitting there going this is not what I wanted. I'm so sorry. I wanted you to stay, but it was out of my hands. These people did this to you. It was not me. And then by the time these people get to jury, I have a feeling they're going to be so dumb when they go to jury that they're going to be telling each other, they're going to act like it's still part of the game and being like, well, like, I was so pissed that Kevin said this to me, and I was so pissed that Jason did this to me. The only one who's good in this house is Paul. And they're going to sit there and talk about it, and they're still going to be like pissed off at Cody, and so they're not going to listen to him, and they're going to still think that Mark and Elena were, you know, on the other side of the house, and they're still going to think all the exact things that they were thinking in the house. And not only that, but Paul is sending them to the jury with specific messages. He was like, okay, Matt, when you go to the jury, I'm going to need you to tell them that Kevin said this and Kevin did this and Kevin's been a liar the whole time. And so that way we turn everyone in the jury against Kevin. So that way if Kevin gets to the end, he'll never win. And so Matt's like, yep, I'm doing it. And they like shook on it and like hugged and they like, and now Matt's going to go to the jury bad-mouthing Kevin, acting like this was all Kevin's fault that Matt went home. And the people in the jury, they're not going to have any other way to not believe that. So they're just going to listen to what everyone says who comes out the door. And so Paul's just going to, no one's going to be pissed at him. That's just the way it's going to be. And it sucks. And that's just it.
It's so stupid that we can blame Kevin. This is so ridiculous. Everyone is pairs, clear pairs in the house. And there were 2, count them, 1, 2, Hinky votes, 2, not 1, 2. How can it be Kevin? Just like you've got Josh and Christmas, like Kevin with Hinky votes, and then you've got like how can everyone separately blame Kevin for like?
Well, now it's come out that Jason did it. Now it's come out that Jason's one of the votes, and now they're thinking, well, Kevin's the other vote.
A 30-second conversation could squash this. It just won't.
Right, but they won't do it because Jason's the one who knows. Everybody knows pretty much, but Jason knows, and he's not going to get revealed that Alex was the one who did it. Paul's not going to reveal it at this point in time. So, you know, Alex gets away scot-free, and Jason and Kevin now take the brunt of the blame. And now it looks like, oh, it makes sense that they voted together because now Jason has saved Kevin. They're the ones in an alliance.
But on the other hand, Alex looks really, really shady. When that question was asked today, I mean, she could not look at Matt in the eye. Yeah. I'm telling you what, Jason, at least I will say that I was proud of Jason because I know, he wanted to say, yeah, me and Alex voted against your ass. But he didn't say that. He just said, I did and somebody else did. And I was glad that he did that. And I was glad he held firm. He was like, I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to get me to blow my top, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to open my mouth and have diarrhea of the mouth again. And he was actually sort of okay. Kind of the one time I didn't want him to hold his tongue because I really wanted him to spill the beans of what really happened and let Alex feel a little bit of the heat too. It was everybody wanted to get their turn in the spotlight today. It was like first Alex came in and tried to defend Jason, even though she wanted to be the one who looked like the good guy. And then Matt started directing his anger at her. And then Josh started to get in on it. And then Josh got in later with Kevin. Christmas got in with Kevin. I really want to say really quickly that I do agree with you, Taryn, that Paul has played. It's really amazing the amount of control he has. On the other hand, I do think that he brings out the worst in these people. I mean, I don't think they're great game players to begin with. I think they're effing horrible, okay? But the mob mentality and what some of these people have said about Kevin today is so far beyond the pale that I honestly can't believe that somebody in the house doesn't listen to them and check them and say, you might want to take that back. That's not a good thing to say. We sound horrible right now. I've often wondered, if I was on BB15, when Andy and them were going around about Alyssa, if I would join in on that. I've consistently said, you know what? I would not have. I would not have joined in on it. I mean, my game be damned. And I feel like that these people just are not cut from the same cloth.
Well, you say that as though I disagree with your position. But no, yeah, I mean, Paul has created an environment that is very personal. And that's why I do think that he has to be very careful about his jury votes because people are playing so personally. And he won't even accept that it's just a game. When Mark tries to be like, no, Cody, say what you want about Cody, but it's all just a game. Paul's like, no, he's actually a terrible person. Right. That's where he's really starting to lose the narrative there, I think. And it could turn around on him if he's not careful.
Yeah, that's a fair point, actually, because he, in the beginning, he was really saying, hey, dude, it's a game. I went to the end last time. I lost by a vote. I got F'd there. And he said that a little bit today. But on the other hand, he has gone out of his way to really paint the people on the bottom. And everybody's going to be on the bottom at some point as the bad guy. It's Kevin's coming up the next week. And I can't wait to see once Kevin, if let's say that Alex wins HOH out of nowhere. We'll talk about her issues with that in a second. But if she actually won and put Kevin on the block and he went home, then who would they start, talking behind behind the target's back the next week to make them next week's bad guy, because I feel like that's what it's been every week. This week's bad guy is Matt and Raven, in Jason's eyes at least. Next week's bad guy is Kevin in everybody's eyes, and that's just how it's going to be in this house because Paul's running it.
Yeah, and the thing is that right now, at least, it's very effective because we see this whole blow up happen with Matt and Raven and then Jason. And Paul, even though he's not able to stop Raven and Matt from really blowing up at Jason, he is able to eventually turn the narrative around by, again, he's mentioned that this is his strategy. Basically, anytime he talks to anybody, he just trash talks Kevin. And he gets this whole anti-Kevin movement going from the very people who know that Kevin is blameless in this, because he wants Kevin blamed by Matt and Raven, and he gets this whole thing worked up, and he's talking to all of these people like Kevin is the worst. Can you believe what Kevin did? He's trying to win their jury votes. Can you believe what he's doing right now? Can you believe that he denied being the Hinky vote? And they're like, we can't believe it. He's the worst. Kevin is just so terrible. And it just all culminates into another big blow up that we had today, which started with, of all things, Christmas getting pissed at Kevin because he said something along the lines of like, are you going to go swimming? And according to him,
are you going to go in the pool? Yeah.
Right. And according to him, what he meant was like, are you going to like sit on the side and dangle your feet in like you occasionally do? And Christmas just blew up at him. Like, why would you ask that question if you already know the answer? Obviously, I broke my foot. I can't swim in the pool. And he was like, "Whoa, I that's not what I meant." She's like, "Why did you say it that way then?" Like, clearly just looking for a fight. And there was really nothing to argue about here. But then Josh gets involved.
Oh, surprise! Josh gets involved. Really?
Well, do you want to talk about what Josh did?
Well, I mean, Josh just well, first of all, he brought up the fact that Kevin won the $25,000, which out in the middle of everybody, I thought was sort of amazing because that's never really happened before earlier this season. Even though basically everybody knows that Kevin took the $25,000 at this point. By the way, I love looking at Melissa right now because she was like so effing bored, and I can tell it's because she's so effing bored with the entire plight of the season and the lack of gameplay. She's just like, oh my God, get me out of here as far as the show goes. But she loves being here with us. So I'm not throwing shade on you, honey. I'm just like,
no, of course. No, it's just like another one of the, I feel like we've had these conversations literally every week about the exact same thing. And it's like the first time it's like fun and it's cool to make impressions and talk about the people and it's hilarious. And now it's like, okay, enough. Like find something else. Like there's got to be something else going on, but it's literally the exact same narrative every single week.
Right. Well, Josh brings up the $25,000. Oh, sorry. Just really quickly. Josh brings up the $25,000 and, says, who took the $25,000? Kevin, who took the $25,000? And Kevin's like, I don't know. You took the $25,000. You told. Now Kevin's actively lying. He says, you told me you took the $25,000, which of course we know not to be true. And everybody else knows not to be true. So Josh is like, well, swear on it. Swear on your kids. And wow, I knew that rage was in Kevin, but it was actually kind of nice to see Kevin actually step to Josh, even though there was a counter between them. Thank God. And the feeds quickly cut. And when they came back, they were
picked up a glass too.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
Like he picked up a glass and was like, "Say one more thing about my family." And he's like, "Shut the F up! Shut the F up! Say one more thing about my family." He basically lunges at Josh. Again, there's a counter between them. But he was apparently threatening to like smash the glass over Josh's head. The feeds cut out. They were gone for like a good half hour to like 45 minutes before they came back. At which point Kevin was apologizing. It seemed like everybody had made up, but then they of course get back into the Kevin bashing after that. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Raven is hilarious to me because she's doing anything she can to try to save her boyfriend at this point. She's like, Kevin should be evicted because he was threatening to smash a glass on a guy. Like, isn't that something? Like, I'm like, girl, nothing's going to save you now. Oh, yeah. I remember. Sorry. I'm going to write it down and come back to me.
Okay.
But I just like, I was so,
and it went on my head.
I'm so torn about Josh because I feel like, okay, we've all said that he basically has like split personality. Like he's either super like angry and mean and yelling at people and argumentative, or he's this like sweet, sad guy who's like, I feel bad about that. I don't want to, and he would say stuff like, I don't want to attack Kevin. I don't want to attack so-and-so. Like, I feel bad when we attack these people. Like, we shouldn't gang up on them. And then like a minute later, he's like, oh, let me at him. I'm going to attack him. And it's like, so I half like sit there. I literally go back and forth every day. I'll be like, wow, you know what? Like, Josh is a sweet guy. He's a sweet guy. Look at him. He's the only person who says he doesn't want to bully people. And then the next minute, I'm like, I hate this guy. He's so mean. He's so cruel. And during his fights, he will sit there and he'll start the fight. He'll yell at them. He'll bring it in personal attacks. And then he'll be like, why are you arguing with me? I'm just trying to have a conversation. Like, don't argue with me. And then it's like, you are arguing. Stop doing that. You're the one who's arguing.
I know, right?
You started the whole fight. That's enough. And it's like, who is the common denominator in every single fight that has happened this season? It is always Josh. He cannot control himself. He cannot. And these people, they goad him on, obviously, but it's like, have some self-control and don't do this. Like, I can tell he has a good heart. I can tell he does, because if he didn't, he wouldn't sit there and feel bad about it, and he wouldn't say the nice things that he says about people. And you know, he cries after he fights with people. I know he has a good heart, but he just can't control himself, and he just goes with the crowd, and it's awful.
He might be one of the most infuriating house guests of all time as far as fights goes, because I am getting secondhand rage and I can tell Melissa is too, just like listening to him, like, because I want to jump through the computer screen and strangle his neck, and I would have pay for Kevin to smash a glass on his head because I'm so tired of him and his mouth. And she's right. He's the condescending, I'm just asking, dude, like, why are you getting upset right now? Why are you doing this? I've always said that Josh would make an honorary good gay guy, because like he has that little squishy attitude about him where he's just like, yeah, he just knows how to really get people's goats. He just knows how to do it. I guess that's a talent in Big Brother. I'll give it up to him for that. Crazy. But it's rage inducing watching it on the feed.
Well, I mean, like, to look at this on a broader scale, right? Is basically Paul whipped these people up into a fury, and then Christmas picks a fight with Kevin over nothing, and then Josh tries to jump in, is proven wrong when he tries to attack Kevin, and he knows that he has absolutely nothing, and Kevin's just like, dude, apologize, and Josh is like, whoa. Josh still goes after him. He knows he has nothing to fight about, so he brings up the 25,000 and calls him a liar, and then, says, swear on your family. It's basically like these people are just trying to goad Kevin into fighting them, and then when Kevin finally loses his shit, they go, oh, can you believe what Kevin did?
That's what they do.
See, look at his true character. His true character came out.
And Paul is the one who does this. He did this last season. He's doing it this season. This is just who he is. He doesn't have any other way to play. And these people are just buying into it because he's a vet. I can guarantee you that if he was not a vet, they would have kicked him out long ago. They would have been like, this guy's annoying. We hate this guy. But it's because these guys are such followers that they have no way of playing the game on their own. They just think that he's gonna like ride them off into the sunset as like famous people or something. Like they think they're gonna like come out the other side and have everyone love them or something because they loved Paul last season. Well, newsflash, the only reason we loved Paul was because he was the only one who was like an underdog. And you guys are not underdogs. That's Cody. So it infuriates me.
All right, Alex, what are your thoughts on all of this?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, I don't know. I had many points, but I just...
I know, so you're like me.
The conversation keeps moving past me.
Right? See, exactly. I know that feeling because stuff goes past you and you're like, you have points in your head and you're trying to keep it in your head, but then somebody else says something like fantastic and you're like, oh, I like that point too. And then your own thoughts go out of your head and you're like, shit. Yeah. I
mean, here's what I was really going to say, right? Is like, I don't get as bothered by words in the Big Brother house. Like, even if there are things that I think are like uncool to say, like, whoa, that's really messed up, I don't think there should be any rule against saying anything you want in the house. I don't think we should police speech. I think Paul is definitely fueling the fire, but I think like you have to hold these people accountable for the things they choose to say. Absolutely. And then, but yeah, I mean, when it comes to like some of the stuff they're saying, it's really messed up. But like the thing that bothers me, and you guys hit on it, is like, it's just so cowardly, right? Like what Josh is doing, like to instigate, and then like anytime someone has like started to walk him down, like, oh, get away from me. He's just such a baby. Like you can't like, as Matt would say, man up to someone, and then when they meet you there, then like try to turn it on them and like accuse them of being like an antagonist or violent or something. That is just like, that to me is like the pinnacle of cowardice. Like I have no respect for that kind of behavior in my own life. I have no respect for that kind of gameplay. I think like you should be allowed to sit around and like, villainize the house against someone. I get like that there's leverage in being able to do that if you can pull it off. But when you're taking it to a point like we're talking about now, where it's like, I'm going to go try to get him to fight me. But then the moment he reacts the way I'm trying to get him to, I'm going to turn into like, I'm going to sell it like a soccer player and just go down and flop around. You know what I mean? Like, no, I'm not having that. That's where I draw the line.
I feel like that Josh and Christmas are actually cut from the same cloth because they're both bitches. Honestly, I couldn't believe it when she went off on Kevin today. She was absolutely like jizzing for a fight. She could not wait to get. That's not the word I was looking for, by the way. I was looking for a different word. But she was trying to get a fight going with Kevin just because he was the main target of the day. I know. Sorry, Taryn.
That's a hashtag.
Do that. I know, right? And, yeah, we can't do that. But she was absolutely ridiculous. It was absolutely crazy. I couldn't stand listening to the both of them. And then Josh coming in like he always does. I couldn't stand it. By the way, this is what I wanted to say really quickly about the thing that made me like absolutely fall off my effing chair today was when Matt and Raven were at the dining room table sitting there. They're talking and Matt's like, well, I'm going home. And Jason's like, well, how do you know? In front of Raven, who expects to be kept because she's Raven. I was like, oh my God. I can't, like, that was like, everything had calmed down. And then when he said that, I was like, the whole chat room in like CBS.com and Rob as a podcast was like, wow, like, oh my God. It was just so rich. I mean, Jason, I love you, cannot help but put his foot in his mouth. It was great.
But yeah, Taryn, earlier, like I was listening to this conversation between like Josh and Jason, and like, did I hear it right that Jason tried to say he didn't know who the one hinky vote was and the other was Kevin? And like, it's just like that kind of misinformation to Josh should come out. Like, there's like, how is it not? You tell me how it's not happening. Right?
I don't even know what you're referring to. So.
Well, like, I mean, I'm pretty sure like Jason and Josh are sitting there, and Jason is like, Josh is like, it's there when they're like bashing Kevin. It wasn't even that long ago; it was a few hours ago. And yeah, I mean, Jason is basically saying like, yeah, I know Kevin was one of those votes. I don't know about the other one. It's like
he already admitted that
it already came out, right? Like, it just seemed like maybe Josh didn't hear him, or maybe I misheard him. But no, like,
Josh was in the room. Josh was in the room, and they were like, "It's cool, dude. We know. Like, you wanted to give Mark a sympathy vote. We get it. We know. We like, it's gone. Don't worry about it." They're partially saying that because he's the HOH this week. Right, exactly. But the thing about
missed the part where Josh was okay with it. I thought he had just like misheard. Like, I'm like, the information was there. Okay.
Well, nobody even
somebody
cares
correct me if
about
I'm wrong.
information.
Yeah, apparently not. That's the thing. Nobody really cares about the true information at this point. They're more interested in pinning it on Kevin. I think that's the gist of the story.
Yeah, both votes. Pin him on Kevin.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing about Jason is that he just like he says things wrong all the time, and that was like part of the like most of the points of contention. And Matt was like, Raven was saying, why did you whisper in my ear after the nomination ceremony that if you won the veto, you would take me off the block? And he was like, I don't remember saying that. And Matt was like, whoa, you don't remember? You're not going to be a man and remember? Because men remember. So he was like, fine, I don't remember doing it. I guess I didn't say it. So now we're like, why would Raven make that up? Well, she is Raven. I legitimately don't know if Jason said this. We took it as gospel that like she said that he said it, so we assumed that he did. And it seemed like something that he was certainly capable of doing. He really did talk to her this morning and really acted as though he was going to put Kevin up on the block. But at the same time, if he genuinely doesn't remember doing it, I think that maybe he didn't. So it might be worth watching in the episode to see if this actually happened.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to get the answer to that question because, you know, usually they play the music at the end. Or maybe they will now that this has happened. Maybe they'll flash back to the nomination ceremony and we can hear what he has to say. I know that Jason is very conflict averse and he is likely to say something like that to someone just to say, you know, oh, yeah, I nominated you, but don't worry, we're going to pull you off with it, like whisper that in her ear as he's hugging her. On the other hand, I do feel like he kind of handled it badly today. And I guess I can't really come down on him because he really doesn't know this game at all. But Matt and Raven basically told him, like, dude, all you need to do was say, this is a game move. You know what? This is a game move. You're the last showman in the house. I had to put you up. I want you out. I don't think Kevin's going to nominate me. And sayonara. That's really what he needed to say. And instead, he's got all of these whys and wows and how this happened, and it didn't do him any good.
Well, that's the thing too. But like, because he did, he was like, look, then it's just a game move. And then they were like, then why didn't you just say so earlier? And he's like, you're right. I'm sorry. I wish that I had. And then Matt was like,
what he
why aren't you
needed to
standing up for
say-
yourself? Why aren't you standing up for your beliefs? And he's like, what? He's like, what are you talking about? He's like, you just agreed with Raven. He's like, fine, I don't agree with Raven. And he's like, well, then why aren't you a man? Like there was nothing that was going to appease that.
Why doesn't he just say, I initially wanted to keep you? That was the initial plan. And when I spoke to you, that was the plan. But things have changed, and I decided last minute to not use the veto. Like, why doesn't he just say that? It's
That's
like
what he should have
that
said.
would alleviate any sort of like controversy here, because he would just say things changed last minute. I'm sorry. Boom.
Yeah,
done.
or
Nobody
he-
that articulate in this house.
He's not that articulate. The other thing he could have said, because Matt's like, why couldn't you just tell us? And Jason almost had it. He's like, I can't reveal everything to you. And what he needed to say was he needed to just go beyond that just a little bit and say, you know what? I didn't really want you to try that hard for the veto. I wanted you to think that everybody was in on the plan. I didn't want you to think that your life was on the line or things might play out differently. I had to lie to you because this is a game. That lying is part of the game, even though Raven wants to say it's not. And, he didn't show his true colors there. He showed that he's a little bit of a gamer, and I actually kind of liked it.
Yeah, I think part of the problem is that when he's being asked these questions, his answer is, because that's what Alex and Paul told me. And he feels like he can't say that. And so instead of saying that, like what Paul did tell him to say is blame it on Kevin. Say that Kevin said something to you last minute and it freaked you out and you didn't put him on the block. But Jason also doesn't want to throw Kevin under the bus in that moment.
Especially with Kevin right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So he ends up just taking the full brunt of it without having any kind of explanation, because all of his explanations include things that he feels like he's not allowed to say. So, I mean, it ends up being a complete mess.
You know what the answer was, right? It was Ramses.
Yes.
That's the only explanation.
Yeah.
Look, I got a message from Jedi Ghost Ramses, who told me that that you
Sneaking
guys.
to the house at night,
Yeah,
continuing to leave his mark on the game.
I also liked that Matt was just like who went up on the block the last? Who hasn't cast a single vote for a member on the jury? Who volunteered to throw a safety competition? Like.
It's like,
Yeah.
you did because you're
Some
a moron.
idiot.
No, my favorite part of the lesson was like in my head was Alex Kidwell's voice from like 3 weeks ago when Matt started saying this. When Alex was talking about, you know what, that kind of credibility that you have with people for doing things like that. That's only good if the people in charge deem it so. And the person who's in charge this week did not deem it so. So you're shit out of luck, Matt. I mean, Alex, I love the way you said that at the time.
Yeah.
And that it's so funny because Matt has continued to say basically the same thing every single week that he's gone up, that, this is his time. He wants to be a pawn now, so he doesn't have to be a pawn later. It's just sort of laughable, actually.
Mhm.
Yeah. There's
No,
no
I-
eyes in team, but there are two eyes in Big Brother.
No, I loved Alex, your tweet earlier where you were like, Matt finally figured out that Big Brother is not a team sport. And also, Alex, your spelling. Oh, boy.
You know what I think? I thought you were thinking about the eyes. Like, remember that old eye from the old Big Brother?
Yeah.
I'm like, that eye and then the regular
Yeah.
eye. Okay.
I don't know why
Yeah,
I just
that's what I
I threw it out there before I really thought it through, and I'm
You're
like,
wait.
no, there's an I and a 1. Wait a minute. If we're counting the 19, maybe we can.
You should have
do that
just let
in
it
there.
be and then let people's interpretation be like, maybe I'm misinterpreting this.
It reminds me of there was some old cartoon I saw where someone was just like said something stupid about how the peanut isn't a pea or a nut and thought it was really smart. Like, wait a minute, it is a nut.
All right. Well, Matt still does think this is a team sport, unfortunately. He feels like it's time for him to go and to let Raven move on in the game. And part of his plan to do this is that he's going to eat regular food. He threatened to do this before. Lots of people have threatened to do this. None of them really generally go through with it. We saw Audrey do this a bit. But for the most part, nobody actually goes through with it because they go into the diary room and they're like, don't do this. Matt went into the diary room and they said, don't do this. And he said, nah, whatever. So Matt plans on getting as many penalty votes as he can this week.
Can we talk
Like,
about that?
why, though? Why?
Because
what
he's
is
over it.
the
He doesn't want to be a have-not. He wants to eat. He wants to take hot showers, and he wants to sleep with Raven in the regular bed. That's what he wants to do. Honestly, the thing that matters most to these house guests is the money. I really think, and I tweeted this to Big Brother, like, you should, one penalty vote I can accept. That's what you do when you get something wrong. But if you actively thumb your nose at the game and the fans and say, basically, F y'all, I'm going to do whatever the hell I want, you should start taking away money. And it really needs to be a deep cut for someone like Matt, because I guarantee you, even the threat of that, even if you're not really going to do it, would make him hop to it. So please do something.
I mean, to me, I don't really see a difference between this, you know, because the week is so long, like knowing that you're on your way out and starting to do this. And like, for example, like in Survivor, like when Vetus is voted out on day 3 and decides to go home and not stay for the duration, they took his stipend. They took away all his money and didn't invite him for the finale. I mean, you know, CBS and Survivor really like held their feet to the fire and make them follow the rules and hold them accountable if they're not going to do that because they're in some faraway foreign country. I mean, I know you're on the lot and maybe things are more forgivable, but yeah, no, I agree with you, man. I think if these, you know, I think one way to incentivize people to play harder is more money, and one way to incentivize them to not be, you know, you want them to take this seriously.
Well, and they're mocking the game at this point. They think it's going to be effing hilarious if he gets like 37 penalty votes. You know, with 37 penalty votes, Matt, you're a victim. Like, I mean, first of all, I hope that doesn't happen. Really, if that happens, I will be aghast. If it does happen, though, I really hope, because Julie has been going hard at these house guests as they have come out. They better boo his ass till Kingdom Come, and then Julie better let him have it, because this is honestly pathetic, Taryn.
Well, that's an actual reason to boo someone, right? Like, you screwed up the game, and honestly, I'm guessing they will threaten to take away the stipend, because Matt came out of the diary room saying, like, they told me that's borderline using production as a strategy, and if I feel like that's how they can get away with it in the contract, if they say you're using production as a strategy, that's against the rules, so we will take away your stipend. If they can solidify that, I think they will threaten it. But as of right now, he's so hell-bent on eating his cereal that he's willing to take as many penalty votes as possible in order to eat as much of it as possible. And he really is just ready to go home.
Do you think it's one penalty vote per kind of thing? So like if you were to eat all the cereal, is that one vote? And if you were to start eating candy corn, is that another vote? Or like, is each bowl of cereal a penalty vote? Well, or like, how do you think it would work?
It's happened before where people have eaten things and it's never been more than
Audrey got one
vote. Exactly. Audrey got one vote. I believe she ate a couple of times. So
what if he ate and then showered and then like, is each thing you're not allowed to do?
That's what he plans on doing. He plans not only does he plan on eating, he plans on showering. He plans on sleeping in the beds. He just is going to act like he's not a have-not anymore. And I mean, I feel like the penalty is not high enough, and maybe if it's not in the contract now, maybe they'll change the contract in the future. But I think they are trying to get around the fact that maybe they can't enforce it in the contract by saying, again, you're using production as a strategy. He said himself, part of why he's doing it is so that he can ensure that he goes over Raven.
Dude, they only get this money because CBS deems it so, because the producers deem it so. They are under no obligation to give him anything, okay? Really, I mean, this is their agreement to them.
It's in the contract.
Right.
I mean, what? I mean, serious, what? They can't say that, you're screwing over the house, you're not following the rules, and thus we're going to take away, half of your stipend.
If it's in the contract, they can do that, but if it's not in the contract, then they can't just change it last minute.
I know you're based in California. I have to believe that this contract is totally in favor of the producers in the house and not in favor of some wannabe reality star who gets on Big Brother. But that's just me.
Those contracts, as I understand, are like 400 some pages, and it's not
they're very reality show contracts
incentives.
are very, very long, and it really gives the producers anything that they want to do. So it's probably in there, but still, like, it has to be in there at some point in order for it to
basically selling yourself into slavery for 5 years.
Well, and that's what I'm saying, where it's like they basically can do anything they want because they're saying this isn't just breaking the have-nots, it's you're using production and strategy. So like that is what they're doing to get around the fact to make sure that he won't get the stipend. Or
what they should do, honestly, is tonight when he goes to sleep with Raven, is just continually over and over and over and over again is just say, Matt, you are not allowed to sleep in a regular bed as a have-not. And if they do that like 100 times tonight, I guarantee you he will move beds and move back to the have-not room, because the rest of the house is not going to put up with that at 3 a.m.
Well,
Yeah, they'll start
Matt-
beating him with rocks and pillows.
Matt is just such a waste this season. He is taking up someone's space who could be there. He hasn't done a single thing this entire game. And now when he's hit with any sort of adversity, like his first little bit of adversity, he crumbles. And
Yep.
it's embarrassing. It's awful. It's such
Why-
a waste.
Why are all the reality stars from the DC area the worst ones? So unfair. Why do we always get the Matt Kleins and the Ryan Aikens? And
I like how he's slowly separating himself. Now it's not like best friend. It's from the same area. I have no connection to this man. I don't know what happened.
I don't. I've never met him.
So this point actually is important here that that Matt plans on not being a have-not here, because that leaves Kevin as the only remaining have-not, I believe. And because of that, Alex has taken it upon herself to dump all of the slop, all of the remaining slop, so that there's no more slop for Kevin to eat. I don't know what she plans, like what her plans are for this, because obviously they're not going to let Kevin starve. They're probably just going to give him more slop, right, Alex?
Yeah, like what do you think is some like secret recipe? They have to like go like to some like obscure location and get some Sherpa to make it for them. They just whip it up in like the kitchen back there, like literally on site. It's not that big a deal. You're making more work for production. You're not like doing anything to irritate Kevin. Oh, you took away my shitty food. Oh no. Like they're gonna give him more, and production's gonna be like, man, freaking Alex making us make more. So then they're just gonna bury you in the edit. It's a good job. You played yourself.
I hope they bury Alex in the edit. She deserves it.
That's like the only possible outcome. Like that's the thing. If you thought this through, you'd recognize this is a no-win path that you're down, because like the only people you're inconveniencing here is production.
Are we talking about the fact that Alex threw out the slop? And,
Yes.
yeah, I know. I'm sorry, my pizza arrived. Yes, that's just. I mean, again, it's just the mob mentality of this season. This is why so many people hate this season and just really want it to be over. Even though there is some fun times and there is some interesting gameplay, at least from Paul and maybe from Josh, but that's about it. And some interesting drama. But this type of stuff, I just can't put up with. It's just so mean-spirited. I didn't even like it when Netta threw out all the condiments because she was
I
trying
didn't like it either.
I liked
it. She's trying to weaken her competitor. I mean, girl, please. I don't want to get on.
They'll just get new compliments. Yeah, no, I honestly,
Not
I
before
just
that
don't,
next
I don't
morning's
like it.
competition. They won't.
Wait, hold on, Brent. Like, you were totally on board for Ica, like, trashing Kevin's room, right? Like,
What about Jackie's macaroni
wasn't.
picture?
yeah, or like destroying her study guide, like.
Oh, you know why? Because bitch did it with class. That's why.
Okay, fair enough.
I just wanted to make sure we had that clarification.
Yeah.
So, despite all of the vitriol aimed toward Kevin this week, going into next week, it does seem like Paul is making sure that everyone is still on board. Alex and Jason are still our targets. With the only contingency being if Alex wins the HOH, it seems almost a guarantee at this point that she guns for Kevin of all people, which is just like, again, like the worst possible move for her in this game. It's like she's just not only okay. There's two things. Alex is in a pretty decent spot here because she's so good at competitions, because Jason is so good at competitions, and because Paul doesn't want to have to be the one to take the shot at them. So she's in a pretty decent spot, but she's doing two things completely wrong next week, which is one, she's letting Paul talk her into throwing the HOH so that Josh can win and then take her out of the game. And two, even if she does win HOH, she's gonna take out the only other like potential ally she has, even though she's already alienated him, so he's not even an ally anymore. It's like there's nothing. She's just so bad.
She's so bad. She's so bad. She's so bad. She is the absolute worst. I like cannot. I'm so. God, you just made. I was like trying to keep it calm about Alex and being like, she's not worth it to talk about this episode. Like, you know what? She's not worth it. And you just brought me right back where I was, and I'm very mad at you.
What do you think about this analogy that just came to me? Like, she's kind of like the 2-year-old that like found her dad's shotgun. And she's just like, she's just playing with powers way out of her control. Right?
So dark, so fast.
Well, this is how I feel about Alex. This is where my brain goes when we start to talk about this girl and her game. So my apologies.
Oh, all right. So it does look like Matt will be leaving the house this week, and almost assuredly it will be either Kevin, Alex, or Jason leaving next week. Paul still maintains complete control. Everyone is still completely on board with his plans. Nothing seems to be getting in the way at the moment, although we have a lot of people thinking like, oh man, so much is happening, so much is blowing up. surely Paul's game is going to get blown up, but all of it has been to Paul's benefit. I mean, unless you guys disagree, do any of you feel like there's any chance that like any of this is going to get back on Paul anytime soon?
No.
I don't know. Maybe next week, because I do feel like, given Alex's want to throw the HOH competition, and by the way, Whistle being aware of that and being okay with that, which I find incredible that they don't recognize that they are obviously the biggest duo in the house, each other's ride or dies. They've called each other that in front of everybody. I mean, it's just crazy that he's okay with that when he can't play for HOH himself. I don't know. I think more than anything that I just wish that they would wake up and realize that they're in trouble. On the other hand, with people like Josh, who don't really want to be the bad guy and are aware that Paul is trying to set himself up to be the good guy, maybe Paul's stuff will come out if Josh feels like he's being used at all. Because as time has gone on, Josh has shown that he doesn't want to be used by Paul or anyone to further their game. He just wants to further his game. So if Paul really tries to pretend and be nice, like, if Josh wins HOH and betrays Alex and Jason and nominates them on the block, if Paul tries to disavow that, I don't think Josh will stand for that like Jason did this week. Do you guys agree?
I was paying attention to the feeds because we have some updates.
Oh, sorry, fabulous.
I was seeing that too.
Yes. Apparently, it has been announced.
A meeting took place.
Matt officially has a penalty vote against him for breaking
One
rules.
One
like so
counter
far.
in the bottom corner, just in case it keeps going as the week proceeds.
Yeah. And Jason is helping Kevin get some more slop. He's telling him how to make the slop because Kevin doesn't know and nobody's willing to make it for him anymore.
Yeah, they said that. Don't even tell him where the directions are. Like, let him find it himself. They're such bitches. Oh god, I can't stand with these people. Oh,
yes. So, man, the vote against Matt is already 1-0. So yeah, there you go.
All right.
All right.
I think
It was funny because
only-
right before the feeds went down, it looks like Alex was saying like, "I hope it's a party for Final 8," and then like feeds came back like, "Well, that's not what I thought I was going to be." I always love those moments. The last thing you hear and the first thing you hear when feeds go down, like it's always good.
I just feel like the only way that something might change in the game is if Josh feels like he is the target and his back is against the wall. I feel like he's our only hope for something to change, because I think everybody else, like, once it's their turn to go, they're going to just like lay down and be like, okay, well, you know what, guys, like, good game. I guess it's my time, but you guys go ahead. I want you guys to win, like, go for it. But I think that if Josh finds that all of a sudden the target is now on him and his back's against the wall, I could see him releasing information, saying something, trying to get, the target on someone else, or, I don't see him laying down, because I do see that he wants to win, and I don't see him just accepting the fact that now it's his turn to leave and now it's everyone else is going to move along. Whereas I see everybody else, except maybe Kevin, I guess, just lying down and taking it.
The issue that I have with that is that I do agree with you that Josh will not take it lying down and is liable to spill a lot of information if he feels threatened. The problem is that I don't feel like Josh is going to be threatened until at the earliest Final 5, if that. And by then I feel like Paul has a complete walk to the end. Again, there was one thing you said at the beginning, which I do disagree with. I still do think, based on what Josh has said to us in the cameras, is that, and I don't know that Paul will let it get this far, but if Paul really does go through with his current plan, which is to take Josh and Christmas to the Final 3, I do think Josh takes Christmas to the Final 2 if he wins that crapshoot Final 3 HOH competition. And I mean, he said that, this girl is my ride or die and I love her to death. And, she's such a competitor. He's not taking Paul. I'm telling you. We'll see, but he ain't taking Paul.
I'm still cracking up over Taryn's Christmas impression from like the beginning of this podcast, where he's just like, blah, 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 blah.
Oh my God. No, I will also say that it was very frustrating today, because the one piece of information that I thought could be used to take down Paul, which was the 20 that he knew from the beginning that Kevin had the 25K. I thought that was going to be the one piece of information that could take Paul down. And it got revealed today, and nobody really cared, because Paul essentially phrased it as he didn't know that Josh found out, and then Josh the Kevin revealed it somehow. So like Josh knew the whole time, and now Kevin has revealed it. So no one's going to believe it if Kevin says, I told Paul day one. no one's going to believe it. They're just going to be like, yeah, right, you told Paul. Paul already told us what really happened, which is that Josh found out from you, and then Paul found out with us. So there goes that. The one piece of hope that we all had. So now that's done, and we're all just done. And that's
By the way, I just want to ask you guys really quickly, like, maybe these house guests are just that stupid, or maybe I'm, it's like they say, it's easy to play poker great when you can see all the cards on the TV screen. So, don't you think it's obvious when Kevin is lying and when he is not? Because to me, it is very obvious when he is telling the truth and when he is lying. When he is telling the truth, he's almost offended that you would question him. And when he's lying, he's a little bit cooler about it. What do you think, Alex?
Yeah, no, I think Paul is, and maybe a little bit Christmas, but like almost everyone in there has horrible, horrible tells. And they're just really bad liars across the board. I mean, I feel like, and yeah, you're right. I mean, this is, it's easy for us to sit here and play armchair quarterback and talk about it when we have all the omnipotence in the world. But I just can't help but think, if I were to listen to some of the things that I've heard these people say just in extended conversations this summer, I would be able to tell. I mean, Jason's terrible, Alex is terrible, Raven is terrible, and Matt just doesn't lie because he doesn't care. So yeah, it's just it shouldn't be this hard.
Brent, I'm not sure what you're talking about, because they all know Kevin's tell. According to everyone in the house, it's Kevin's tell when he's lying is anytime he opens his mouth. He's obviously lying. Yeah. By the way, Kevin's plan, I forgot to mention this. Kevin's plan next week, if he wins HOH, is to go after Alex. So yet again,
good.
Any one of those three, Kevin, Alex, or Jason will be going home next week unless something pretty dramatic changes.
The really sad part is that if Alex throws HOH, like we all think she's going to do, and they end up on the block together, I really do think Whistle is the one going home, not Alex. Yeah. And the one who really deserves it is Alex. So Whistle's going to have to win the veto, and then we can celebrate Alex and her potato head self going home. But until then, I feel like we're going to get stuck with Whistle getting the boot.
Yeah, Jason's up to what? I think 2 HOHs and 3 vetoes, or 3 HOHs and 2 vetoes. Either way, he's won 5 comps to Paul's 4. So he really has kind of established himself at this point. If you're tracking comps, like he's a bigger target now than I would have expected. He really has. He's gone on a tear down the stretch here, a couple vetoes in a row or whatever. So.
Yeah, especially because he's so bad at studying. Like he's not going to win any of these quiz competitions. So even though he is doing very well, I think that's going to stop pretty soon. Even if he doesn't go home, it's hard to see him doing very well in these quiz competitions.
The one person, though, you really can't fault is Kevin, though, because Alex has just out of nowhere, like this last week, just gone above and beyond to antagonize him when like he was loyal to her. So that one, it's like I can forgive Kevin wanting to take out Alex based on how she's acting. The other ones can't get down with that.
It's not even forgive him. I will be so happy if he goes after Alex. Like I will be thrilled. I cannot wait until she goes home.
And the thing is, it's a legitimate concern. Alex is the only person who, if she won the HOH, Kevin would go home. So it's like she really is his biggest threat in the game, which is absurd.
Which is crazy. And God,
he's never done anything but like vote the way she told him, and just oh my God, it's terrible.
All right, let's get into the stock watch here. We'll start with Paul. We've all been buying on Paul like the last 3 weeks. So are we going to continue that train?
Yeah.
I'm certainly buying more Paul. Alex,
buy more Paul. It's like gold. It's always appreciating in value.
Brent, you agree?
I mean, I guess. I mean, like I feel like on balance that things are more likely to blow up now and screw Paul over than they ever have been before. So I feel like I'm probably going to hold at this point. Like I have enough Paul stock. I don't need no more, I don't know. I feel like I'm going to hold on Paul because I do feel like there are dicey waters ahead for him. And it's going to be tough juggling all these things. Again, I know what you were talking about earlier on the show today with Rob, Taryn, where you're like, basically like 3 groups of people are all trying to throw HOH to one another, so it's going to be interesting to see how that works out. But now Raven has a fire lit under her, and she would be thrilled to be the one to throw Jason's ass up on the block with Alex right beside him. So I do feel like that if they can throw it to Raven, they are going to do so. And are Jason and Alex, are they privy to that? Do they see that they are trying to throw it to Raven? That's another question that I have. And, how bad does that make Paul look? Does any of this come back to Paul? So that's why I'm holding.
All right. Next up is Alex. How do we feel about Alex? I mean, we just did have a whole discussion about how bad she was.
Sell Alex. Self-worn oil.
Can't even finish. Yeah, I gotta sell Alex. Brent,
Yeah.
you've actually been pretty high on Alex in previous weeks.
Yes. I'm going to hold as well.
Okay.
I am, because I do feel like that they respect her. I feel like the people in the jury respect Alex, even if she isn't everybody's best friend. I think she's generally pretty likable when she's not doing things to infuriate us on the feeds. I mean, look, I'm being honest. Like, I still kind of root for her, even though she is effing terrible at Big Brother. Like, she's really, really bad. In fact, maybe the dumbest house guest ever. But she has a natural charm about her, which I just find sort of appealing. And I have to believe that the jury would too. So if she actually did make it to the end, and again, I think Whistle always gets evicted before her, as long as he doesn't win the veto. So, and when she's by herself, maybe she goes after Christmas and Josh. Who knows? I don't know. She could somehow make her way to the end. So I'm going to hold.
Well, I will say that when Alex was talking with Cody and Jason and they were joking and laughing, I was sitting there thinking to myself, like, what? Why do I hate Alex so much? I really like her. She's so great. Like, I really don't understand it. I think maybe I was just like wrong to judge her. And then the second Cody leaves the room and they start bashing him nonstop, I'm just like, oh, yeah, that was why. Yeah, that's exactly why. Right back where I was. And so it's one of those things where, like, Alex can be very likable, but she chooses not to be. Like, her natural self, when she's just, like, sitting there joking, having a good time, she is very likable. But then the second she, like, puts on this persona of, like, yeah, I'm feisty and I'm going to go after everybody, it's like, we don't want that. Stop it. We don't want it. So, you know, I feel I'm very torn on Alex, but not really right now. I'm not torn right now, but I feel like there are moments where I can be torn, just like with Josh.
I really want to like squeeze a podcast in right after you're like, oh, I kind of like Alex, and then we'll get like a positive Alex thing, and then we'll show you some old footage of Alex, and you'll be like, no.
It's right back where I started.
It does seem like this is like an end game with a bunch of like traditionally pre-jury players. Like that's kind of how I feel. And like, you know, like Alex going really far, even though we're talking about like how bad she is at this game. Like, you know, obviously this is going to be a season where we're going to say like results not necessarily indicative of future success. You know what I mean? Like if you finish second or third or something this season, like doesn't necessarily mean you're any good at here. But I think, you know, I can't help but wonder now, like when I see this, like, you know, she drew all those like Pow Pow comparisons at the beginning of the year. Can you imagine like what if Pow Pow's like Alliance Quattro had actually become the bomb squad and they had like run the house? Like now I can't help but wonder about things like that. That's where my brain goes now that I see Alex make it this far in this game. Well, anybody can, right?
We shouldn't forget that Alex would have gone home if she hadn't won that veto week one.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Cody threw to her. Oh,
yeah. It's
Cody.
Again, it's all Cody and Jess's fault.
Yeah, it's not like
it
she
really is.
It's not like, yeah, and most like that does happen sometimes in Big Brother, but it's like, man, that person put in amazing work to sell it. Like Austin had to do so much to get Vanessa to like take him off the block. It's like Cody just like got a wild hair up his ass and just decided to do it.
Well, at the time, I really enjoyed that move. At the time, I was like, yeah, Cody, like I like Alex. I like Cody and Alex together. Like I want them to team up. This is great. And now looking back at it, I'm like, no, you could have saved us all season. But, you know, like at the
great
time,
if he hadn't already started an alliance that included everyone in the house except for her.
got her, yeah. I don't know.
All right, so let's move on to Jason. Jason, who seemingly was going to go out this week if he didn't win, but he did win. Now again, seeming like he's going to be going out next week if Alex doesn't win, or maybe even Kevin doesn't win. But that doesn't seem particularly likely. Alex, how do you feel about Jason?
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, he's in trouble. He's in a lot of trouble. I think, you know, the only thing that he can we can point in his favor is that he's climbing in Joker's power rankings. Other than that, and that usually is indicative of your game going down the drain. So
yeah,
I think it's
very true.
Telling. Kevin and Jason are the only, you know, players still in the house that are in the top 10 at all. And I think that speaks to their chances in the game.
Yeah, you know, it's really hard to see Jason's path here. I do think he's somebody that if he makes it to the end, he will win, even over potentially Paul. But getting him there is a tough road, because again, even though he has been doing well in competitions, he basically has to win out, and these competitions are not suited for him. I have to sell Jason. I feel like there's barely any chance he gets there. Brent, do you agree?
I concur 100%. Again, he's a massive jury threat. I feel like he beats actually anybody, including Paul at the end, as you said. But there's just no way he's going to get there. No one's going to take him willingly except for Alex, and they're likely going to be up on the block next week, especially if they go through with their plan, idiotic as it is to throw HOH. And they really have a shot at tag teaming HOH all the way till the end. It's very frustrating to me. I hope that when Alex and Jason are put on the block and betrayed by Josh next week, that Kevin walks up to Alex and says, "Told you so."
Melissa, what do you think?
I'm going to hold on Jason just because he's shown that he's very capable in competitions and especially veto competitions. So I have a feeling that he could, pull out a veto win this week if he's on the block, and then potentially, either veto his way to the end or just someone else will be the new target. So I'm just going to hold on him for now.
All right, let's move on to Kevin, who just had a tumultuous day in the house. It seems like everybody is dead set against him, but he's not the target next week for anyone except for Alex. Brent, what do you think about Kevin's chances here?
I am going to sell Kevin's chances because I do not feel like he is going to be the next person out of the house. However, I do not feel like he can get to the end, and even if he does get to the end, I don't feel like he can win. I feel like there's so much vitriol against him right now that anybody who goes out of the house is never going to vote for Kevin to win. They just see him as sort of like guy who's just taking up space, even though he's done basically everything that anybody's asked of him and is a 56-year-old man who's trying his hardest. They just don't really seem to care. In fact, they've gotten really nasty about it. I know we brought up Jason, now we brought up Kevin, so I do have to bring this up really quickly. The thing that Jason said about a half hour ago about the fact that he would F Kevin's wife and tie up his daughters and make them watch. That's how he's mad he is at Kevin right now.
Well, that actually wasn't the context of what he was saying in a situation where Kevin theoretically
even kidding about
him.
it.
Right. I don't want to make it clear because I know that's going to be a point of contention.
Right. It's just I don't understand why people even say things like this on the feeds for people to misconstrue. It's just like something you shouldn't open up your mouth and say. Don't even kid about stuff like that. I mean, who thinks of something like that to even kid about in the first place? Taryn.
Yeah, and this isn't Jason's first incident of saying things he shouldn't.
And I have forgiven him for those because he's ignorant of those things. But this one can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think he said something similar about Cody, maybe something with Cody or Jessica earlier in the season. I mean, he's clearly he's somebody who's used to just not caring about being politically correct in any way. And he's obviously not used to being in a house where people are watching him all the time. He was obviously somebody that was involved in the transgender conversation that Cody was involved in. Obviously, Cody was the worst offender in that one. But Jason, very clearly somebody who does not know when and how to keep his mouth shut in terms of like saying vulgar things. He's very clearly like an old school kind of like locker room guy who's going to be saying all kinds of really dumb stuff that he should never be saying on live feeds.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. You set me up with the whole locker room thing there. I'm like, it's not locker room talk. It's offensive talk. I don't know anyone in a locker room that says stuff like that, even kids about it. So I'm just going to call it as I see it on that one. And I know he has said stuff like that previously, but I think it hits harder when we know that Kevin is being truthful about the fact that he is a father of 7 kids who are all pretty awesome and a cool wife. And they're even doubting stuff like that out of nowhere. Like, who would just make that up out of whole cloth? Like, these people don't even listen to themselves anymore.
Yeah, especially if you were to make up having kids. If you were to make up having kids, you would make up like 2 kids, not 7. So, like, that doesn't make any sense.
Well, I feel like these problem moments, a lot of times, I think they are kind of indicative, at least this season, of like everyone. I don't think it's a coincidence that we're getting these like moments of just petty, childishness, and that everyone is playing so scared this summer, right? Because like they're reverting to like a childlike state where Paul is the adult and they're like acting and responding and playing the game in a very like childlike nature from a psychological standpoint. So I think like, as a result, like they're scared and they're trying to like, oh, I better say the right thing to fit in. Like it's like middle school, you know what I mean? Where like you want the group to love you and you're just so unsure in your own sense of self. And so like you're just like you're sitting there thinking about like what will these guys enjoy. You're not thinking about like what do I feel and what do I want to bring to the conversation. Your head is thinking about like what can I say that will like make these people like me. And Jason is just like gets to these places where he's like, I'm going to say this thing to fit in. I think the Cody thing was a perfect example. Cody's saying all this stuff about like transgender people that he believes. And then Jason just like chimes in to like kind of as a show of solidarity, but he's not like thinking it through that this isn't, you know, the time to chime in. This isn't like the way you want to endear yourself. This isn't like there's other channels for this kind of what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And Paul is, well, I was just,
go ahead.
I was just saying, Paul has shown that these are good things to say and these are good ways to behave, and he's kind of like condoned all this behavior and been like, okay, this is how we should be acting, and this is the appropriate way to play, and people are just feeding off of that.
Well, to be fair to Paul, he was there when Jason made this particular comment, and he was like, no, that is not cool. That is crossing the line. He didn't do it that boldly. He did it like,
his face was
like you know, it was very much like it's like I'm backing away from this. But yeah, Jason very much reminds me of like a middle schooler who is trying to be edgy, right? Like just saying the worst possible thing that can come to his mind. And it's I mean, he should know better. He is much older than a middle schooler. So it's unfortunate that the potentially most rootable character left in the house is now, you know, immediately after doing something that everyone enjoyed, turning people off to him. So that's sort of the theme.
Yeah,
of the
we
season.
can't have nice things, Taryn. We can't have nice things. Especially,
Yes.
I was like all about Jason because of what he did to Matt and Raven today, and it was like the best day of feeds ever on BB19, and then he just like blows it to complete shit by the end of the day. So thank you, Jason. Appreciate that.
All right, let's
breaking news, you guys. Matt is now performing hot showering.
Oh.
So we're about to find out if that's a second penalty vote or just like an extenuation of the first.
I feel like what if they're just all right, leave. You're done.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be kind of
I
cool.
love the way they did it with Willie Hantz, where he like comes in, he's like, okay, he goes to sit down. You're just gonna come right this way with me, right here, and they just like they lead him like cattle, like right through the room, like it's just in one door and out the other. Whoop.
That would be great. Oh, please do that. Please.
You're just gonna come right this way with me right now. We're gonna get you on a shuttle back to shuttle. No, we're not paying for a flight for you. Are you kidding? Come on. We got a Greyhound lined up.
All right, let's move on. Let's move on to Josh in the Stock Watch. We've been talking all week long about, is Josh our Steve Moses of the season? Are we going to back that up by buying? I've pointed out on previous podcasts now, Brent, you've bought Josh every single week without fail. Are you going to continue that trend?
I might as well. I'm gonna buy. So you know, it's a bull market right now for anybody who wants Josh stock. So I feel like I'm gonna buy, and because I'm gonna back it up for a variety of reasons. Number one, I do feel like he is a viable jury threat. I said that before, like 6 weeks ago, and got laughed at by Kidwell. Like, like I don't think that's happening. And here we are, and he really is like the number 2 guy on the totem pole, you know, right behind Paul. So there's that. Number 2, he is not everybody's monkey boy anymore. He doesn't want to do what everybody's telling him to do. Number 3, he is at least aware that Paul is trying to position himself perfectly in a house with all of these pairs, and Josh is aware of that. Now, whether or not he's okay with that, or is willing to do something about it, obviously, is another discussion. He's not getting much support from Christmas, so that is problematic. I actually feel like Christmas might be the death of Josh's game because she's just terrible at reading the room. And in the end, if they're ever on the block against each other, you know Josh is going to go home before Christmas. And I feel like if a couple people in the house have said positive things about Josh, and if I'm saying positive things about Josh and the fandom is saying positive things about Josh, just in general, not obviously there were problematic incidents today, but if they're aware of that, I feel like Paul is going to become aware of that. Like, you know, 4 weeks ago, Josh looked like a great goat to take to the end, but now I'm not so sure. But for the time being, he's not going anywhere anytime soon, so I'm going to continue to buy.
Yes, and I do want to correct myself. I don't want to confuse the people that are trying to track. Brent hasn't bought Josh every single time. It's been like ever since like week 3, he's basically bought Josh every single time. Before then, he wasn't buying Josh. So don't mean to confuse you. So yes, I agree. I think that Josh is probably the person with the second most chance to win the game right now. And you know, you'd think that Paul would be onto the fact that he is a contender here, but he hasn't been so far. He really just sees Josh Josh as this person that can't win the game. And
Yeah,
I'm sure
like
that
me.
This blow up is going to continue to make Paul think that, because Josh just went off again. It had been a while, but since Josh had gone off on people like that, but he just reinforced the idea that he is a GOAT to take to the end, and I think that's going to encourage Paul to do so. Alex, do you agree?
I do, yeah. I mean, I think, and you're saying like, yeah, I mean, I think it'd actually be kind of interesting if Josh and Christmas were on the block together, because like, there's no reason to not evict. Like, of course you should evict Josh over Christmas, but I almost feel like there's a piece of Paul that would like question it. I mean, it is crazy, but they've won the exact same amount of competitions. I know Christmas had the one thrown to her, but like, I mean, it's not like you could sit here and say like Josh is so much more capable than Christmas, because like, man, I don't know, like Christmas without a leg, Josh at 100%, like it's not that big a gap. It's not, this isn't, some like comp beast. He's, antagonizing people left and right, doing the things that like in a traditional season should be losing you jury votes. Like, hence why way back when I said I don't think he can win the game. This has just been such a bizarro season where, I mean, voting might go down different lines. We might see people vote for, varying reasons that we're not accustomed to seeing jurors vote on. And then also he just might be down there at the end with like even more unlikable people, which I didn't necessarily think was possible all the way back in week 3 or whatever.
Yeah, and I think again, like even though I was very annoyed at the way that he came at Kevin today, the things that he was saying were true. Like when he says you took the $25,000 and you're lying about it, as mad as that makes Kevin, at the end of the day, I think Kevin is able to be like, yeah, you know what though, he called me out. Like that was true. It pissed me off that he brought my family into it. He shouldn't have done that, but at least he wasn't coming at me with something that was a lie or something that was entirely personal. And that's always how Josh is able to get away with being so aggressive. Is he's like, look, I kept it to game. I kept it to things that are factual. And that might be the thing that saves him in terms of getting some jury votes. But I do think he needs to be there with somebody who is much more unlikable. Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll buy Josh, I guess. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay. I'm laughing because I just realized that my tweet about they need to take Matt's money if he continues to get penalty votes is actually one of my most popular tweets ever. Yay me.
Going viral.
Okay. So let's move on to Matt. No, sorry. Let's move on to Christmas first.
Yeah,
we'll talk about
Matt's going to be a short discussion
here. Well, Christmas. I think again, I've been selling her every week. I am going to continue to do that. I don't think she can win this game. I think anybody beats her in the final 2 at this point. I don't think that's changing anytime soon. Melissa, do you disagree?
I don't disagree, but I guess I'll hold on Christmas because I think that she does a pretty good job of like making people like her again after she's pissed them off. So because after her and Kevin got in a fight, they were outside talking and they were just like, you know what, like we fight, but I fight with my family. Like, this is just the way we are. I'm sorry we got in an argument, but that's just that, but we're still good. We're still buds, even though then she went and bashed Kevin again, but still like it made Kevin leave the situation being like, okay, like Christmas and I are good. Like we understand each other. And, Christmas is sitting there consoling Raven and she does a good job of like getting in these one-on-one conversations with people and making people feel comfortable and liked and that they understand each other and they have a bond. And I feel like she could end up doing that down the stretch. So I'm not so off on Christmas. I think that she still has some sort of chance at winning. So I'm just going to hold her.
Christmas is totally that friend that's like great one-on-one, but the second she's in a group, it's
yes. The second yes, she absolutely is that. That one-on-one, you guys are like BFFs, and then the second it's in a group, she's like trying to impress the rest of the people of the group and just like bashing you or like making you feel bad. And then like she'll get back one-on-one with you and be great again. And I totally, yes, that is exactly what she does.
Alex, is that
rabble?
What do you think about Christmas?
Yeah, I don't think I said it explicitly, but yeah, bye, Josh. I think, I've been out on him for the longest time. It's time to finally give him a little credit and acknowledge the point that, yeah, I mean, he does have a chance to win. And yeah, got to sell Christmas. I don't think she can win this game like you talked about. I just don't see it. I mean, she won an HOH. So did Jerry. But it's just gonna be hard to see any kind of like sustainable success for her.
Yeah, I don't think she's going anywhere anytime soon, but can she win the game? I say no. I don't think they're going to respect her if she gets to the end because she really hasn't like participated in half the competitions, and I feel like that there's no way that they're going to reward that in modern Big Brother, especially if you don't have, a fair amount of comp wins under your belt, and they're all there for the taking at the end, and I do feel like she's not going to be able to compete in a lot of them. Still wondering about what they're going to do about part 1 and part 2 because it says here she's going to be in the final 3.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to Raven. We've also been, it's been like over a month since anyone did anything other than sell on Raven. So it's hard to picture that's going to change anytime soon. Alex, what do you think?
I think someone's trying to take my mic.
Oh.
I'm selling on Raven, and yeah, I've got bird dogs, so they are antagonistic towards birds, so they'll sell Raven as well.
Okay.
Yeah,
You had to get a weird animal
sell
reference
again.
in there somewhere.
Yeah, I tried. I reached.
I'm
someone-
so.
All right. Brent, you're selling as well?
I mean, here's the thing. I actually liked what I saw from Raven today. And you guys are gonna laugh at me, but I liked this like bitchy side of her that she let it out and just like, told him what for. I sort of enjoyed that part of her. And I like that she's sort of being woken up to the fact that, we're playing a game here and people can lie. On the other hand, she was so haughty about it, the lying, I mean, that I feel like I don't really know if she's willing to do what it takes to get to the end. And I think she actually might be stupid enough to take Paul. She might be the one person who's stupid enough to take Paul. So I grudgingly have to sell.
Yeah, she'll be like, oh, all right, I'm taking Paul because I know that Paul is going to give a speech that will tell everyone to vote for me, and then I will be the winner of Big Brother 19, and then I'll pay all of those bills that I have for all of my illnesses.
And I'm a mama house. And
So, all right.
yeah, I want Julie to, like it's never gonna happen, but it's just so topical. I want Julie when Raven finally does get evicted. I want Julie to be like, well, Raven, we watched you we enjoyed because you can't lie, but we watched you on our feeds. So we watched you this summer, and thanks for playing. And now we'll be sending you to Winterfell. I mean, the jury house.
Well, people don't bother sending Raven sometimes. Anyway, so let's move on to Matt, who it looks like he is definitely gone from the house this week. Is anybody going to do anything other than sell here? I don't think so.
So it's not even worth talking about. Moving on.
Yes. Well, look, hey, I'm opening up the.
Oh, sorry. Wasn't being shady.
Yeah. If somebody wants to say something dumb, like maybe Karen can win Big Brother Canada 5, then I'm opening up that door.
God, it just got real.
Yeah, I did a you now with her. You better watch yourself.
That was fun.
It was cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into some questions here. I took some questions from Twitter. I have one from Shelly Turner who asks, "What are the changes?" Sorry, I must have wrote that down wrong.
I know. What are the chances?
What are the chances?
Chances.
What are the chances they flip the vote to get Raven out this week? They did discuss it, I believe, yesterday. They talked about like maybe we should get Raven out, but again, the second it got back to Paul, he turned the plan back around. But that means that there is a chance, especially the whole plan to like I'm going to ensure that I go home over somebody else. That almost always backfires and makes them want to keep you. So it is theoretically possible that Raven ends up going here, right, Melissa?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely think there's a chance because especially now that Matt is like, well, like, I'm just going to lay down and die and I don't really care anymore and I don't want to be here and blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm not even going to try. That makes people want to keep him around because it means that he's less competition for them. Whereas Raven now seems to have like lit a fire under her and is like, I'm ready to go. So that's, a little bit scarier. So if I were them, I'd be like, well, let's keep the guy who really doesn't care anymore and just kind of wants to sit around and do nothing like he's been doing this whole time. So yeah, there's definitely a chance.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's more likely though that in the clay mold, see what I did there, that Matt is going to end up going out before his showmance anyway.
Yeah, I don't even think
though
they'll
it
have a
doesn't
chance.
make, even though like you said, a lot of times it makes sense to do the opposite of what they want. I think the difference here is that like Raven, they really, Matt doesn't try. It's really. It's like flip a coin, right? It's like Matt probably won't try hard if he stays. Raven might crumble if she stays. I mean,
Well, really, the only
Again, I don't feel like they're not gonna have the chance to flip the vote. That's the thing that's important here. Like, I mean, if Matt continues to pile up these penalty votes, I think at 5 they might as well just send him home. I mean, there's no after he gets beyond 5 votes. I mean, five penalty votes. I mean, there's no point in keeping him in the house anymore because he's obviously evicted. They should just take him out. At that point.
Okay, Matt, that's 6. That's a majority. House to say like just get the hell out.
Yeah. No exit interview, no nothing.
I feel like the only way we can even discuss this as a possibility is if we pretend that Paul isn't running the house or is it even in the house, because with Paul in the game, there's no chance this is going to flip. He wants Raven. He's planning on Raven. He's not going to change his mind. Raven is the much easier person to mold here. So we will be seeing Raven stay in the house this week. Mark my words. Not the Mark, though, that was in the house. A different kind of Mark. Okay, so then we have one from Tom Palmer, who asks, for anyone who thinks Josh has a chance to win, what 5 jurors are going to vote for him over anyone? I'll start with you, Brent, because you seem to be Josh's biggest cheerleader.
You want a name, so I have to come up with a name here. I can give you the jurors. Here are the people that will vote for Josh to win the game, assuming he's at the end against Christmas. That is the important part, or even Raven, and basically anybody but Paul. Okay, that's the point, because I do not think that Josh would take Paul to the end. Although Paul could take Josh to the end, but let's table that discussion. So I believe that Cody would vote for Josh. Actually, I really do. I know that's crazy, but I feel like he'd rather give Josh the win. And he kind of got along with Josh there at the end. I feel like Elena and Mark would both willingly vote for Josh. I feel like Kevin would vote for Josh, and I feel like Whistle. I feel like everybody would want to vote for Josh against Christmas or Raven. Again, I feel like it would be a walk. I feel like it would even be close.
I think Kevin gives Christmas the vote over Josh.
I know really don't like these questions that are asking us to like put ourselves in the brains of these people that just we know definitively can't think. Yeah, it's a scary place.
Well, that's what we do here. So I mean, I've been vocal about saying he can win, so I'm willing to own it. But like I said, the first three people in jury right now, I think they're all voting for Josh. If he gets to the end with anybody but Paul, they're voting for Josh.
But if one of us suffer a mental breakdown this summer, Tom Palmer, you know why. Questions like this one. Yeah.
We have one from Ms. Myra who asks, who do you think Kevin would put up if he won HOH? Would he ever put up Paul? As I mentioned, he did discuss that his goal would be to take Alex out of the house, or at least that's what he told Paul. But do we think there's a chance that he could be the person to turn his back and put Paul on the block? Alex, what do you think?
Oh, man, it's possible. It just seems so unlikely. I mean, they're just all doing so much more to try to get on the radar at this point. I think that's the biggest issue, is that Paul is like, he's found himself at the spot where, he can coast. Right now he can coast as long as he just does a little bit of micromanaging to make sure that no rifts develop that become too big that he might fall into. He's got the ground stable. You know what I mean? He can continue to just walk confidently. It's just going to be a matter of, if he were to take a long nap, I think at this stage of the game, that could even potentially be dangerous. You know what I mean? Like we're at the stage of the game where people should be comparing notes. It's like, I know we haven't talked all summer, but man, there's only 6 people left in the house. What's up with you? That should come at some point. And if we do ever get there, then Paul's going to need to be just on top of it.
So do we think his nominations are going to be Alex and Raven probably? And then with the intention of sending Alex home, we have to assume that they would want Jason out, but obviously with Kevin as HOH, they're probably not going to get Jason. They would probably settle for Alex. So Kevin winning the HOH is probably Jason's best bet there, because although he might need Alex, so maybe it would be better if Alex won, and then even if she took out Kevin, Alex is a more valuable ally.
Next week's gonna suck for Jason, because worst case scenario he goes home, best case scenario one of his 2 allies goes. There's no way around it, because even his allies are gonna target each other. So.
Exactly. We have a question from Donald on Twitter who asks, do you, I think meaning me because I did say this, do you still think Kevin is the best player we've seen in his archetype? I said this earlier in the season. season. I think I do actually stand by it, just really based because there's not a whole lot of competition here. Thinking about like the older guy in the Big Brother house, who is better than Kevin? Kevin's obviously not doing particularly well, but I do think he has some skills in terms of like a social game. I think it was unfortunate for him that Paul really just like stuck the knife in his back and he can't see where it's coming from. But that's happened to everyone in the house at one point or another up until this point. So it's hard to say that he's worse than anyone else here. And then like looking at the field of competition, like who's better than Kevin? I can't think of anyone.
I feel like Jerry is more than anything, and I say this to you because like one of two of those comps down the stretch go the other way. Like I'm thinking like the double eviction when they both wrote 100. I mean, if that falls a different way, I feel like that Jerry might actually be sitting at the end, and he actually sort of kind of knew what he was doing in the house and generally knew where he was at all times. I know his social game was somewhat lacking, but I do think there were quite a few people at the end who would have considered voting for him if he had gotten there. So I don't know that I can co-sign Kevin right now because a couple things. Number one, Kevin has no awareness of what's really happening in the house right now, except for the fact that Matt and Raven wanted Jason to replace one of them with Kevin. He certainly knows that. And he also knows that Alex wasn't exactly happy about what happened earlier at the veto ceremony today either. But he also has these rage episodes where he just goes crazy, and I feel like that combined with the fact that he's totally useless in competitions makes him sort of persona non grata with the house guests. At least Jerry was able to win a few things and even knew his days, is something that I don't think that Kevin could ever do.
Well, I think we could very well be saying, man, if Kevin wins one of those end game competitions, we could see Kevin winning this game. I think that's the position that he's in right now, and I do think that's true. I don't think it's going to happen. Just like I don't think Jerry was ever really going to win enough competitions to get himself to the end. But I think they're in similar situations, and I do think Jerry is probably the closest comparison here because most of the time when you have this sort of archetype in the house, they don't really play too hard. They're kind of in their own world. So I don't know. I do feel like Kevin.
You're going home. Oh,
I do feel like Kevin had potential, like many of the people in this cast, but Paul kind of neutered it, like many of the people in this cast. So that's. Go ahead.
Well, I think it's also really hard to compare because if we're thinking back to like, oh, well, there were, older players on Big Brother 3 or Big Brother 4 or whatever, it's like, it's really hard to compare because this cast is like an entirely different beast and the game is an entirely different beast now than it was back then. So I think that Kevin is doing a great job with the hand that he was dealt. But I don't know how really to compare it with someone from like one of the more earlier seasons. So I think in recent memory, I think he's one of the best ones in recent memory, but I think that it's hard to compare back to when the game was like totally different.
Well, that's what we do here.
The Colonel
I guess so.
The Colonel was in the military and Kevin's a secret mafioso. So that's something.
That's something.
Okay.
Colonel. I just think of that word in Rennie's voice every time I say Colonel.
I will say this about Kevin really quickly. I'm very interested to see where his placement in the house ends up once Alex and Jason are betrayed by Josh. Because by then everything will be shaken up and all of a sudden Kevin's by himself and completely useless. I have to believe that whoever stays of Alex and Jason will then go after Josh and Christmas as the only remaining pair in the house. And then where does Kevin end up? Especially if he's pissing people off. He can't do anything. I mean, he's almost as useless as Christmas is. In fact, I would probably think that Kevin is more useless than Christmas is because at least she sort of knows what's happening, even though Kevin has sort of studied his days. But I feel like she knows what's happening. She can win something like an endurance competition that they sort of made for her, even though they said they weren't going to change the comps, whatever.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I do feel like Kevin is going to have a hard time winning a jury vote now. I think he does have like Cody, Elena, and Mark, but with Raven and Matt now thinking Kevin is the reason why Matt's going home for no reason at all. They've for some reason believe that, but with them thinking that, going out of the house being pissed at Kevin, with now Alex being like totally anti-Kevin, Christmas and Josh completely anti-Kevin. It's hard to see him winning any jury votes with any of them. So he would have 4 at best, and he needs 5. Maybe he's sitting next to somebody who's unlikable enough that he gets 1 more, but I do think he has a much harder time than we initially thought, at least a few weeks ago when it looked like man, Kevin gets to the end, he probably wins in a landslide because he's so liked. It's really just crumbled in front of his face. No more jury votes.
If somehow like Alex beats Kevin in the final two, or we get one of these like ridiculous scenarios, I'm setting the building on fire.
So watch out for Alex.
Fair warning, CBS.
Giving shotguns to 2-year-olds and setting buildings on fire.
What are you talking about? No, that was a random analogy. I just think Alex is like, she's like the kid you shouldn't leave home alone because you can't trust her to have just the most basic level of common sense. That's the point I was trying to make there.
All right. Well, that's about all we've got for you tonight. Let me know if you have any ideas for a hashtag, any of you three, or in the chat.
Not that one.
I liked, what was it?
not
Big
one.
Brother?
Big Brother.
Brither.
Big Brother.
Yeah.
With 2 eyes.
For 2 eyes.
It's going to be, occupied by lots of other very confused people who can't spell things right. All right, so we'll do that. Let me know if you have any final thoughts on this week of feeds. We've got some great stuff coming up for you. Later tonight, early tomorrow morning, I will be dropping the newest episode of The Terran Show, where I spoke with one of my favorite people. She's here with me right now. It's Melissa
Oh, thank
Deneen.
you.
It was so much fun. She's clearly very embarrassed already. So take it easy on her.
Yeah. Take it easy, guys.
You said it's one of your favorite people, and she's here. I said, thank you. I'm here. Thank you.
No, yeah, I heard. No, seriously, it was so much fun getting to talk to Melissa. I hope that it's a great sort of get to know her. I know she's new this season, so you'll get to know her a little bit better. It was really a lot of fun, so I hope you guys enjoy it. We've also got a live feed update tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. We'll be live after the Wednesday night episode to talk all about the veto, and then Thursday, I believe we do have Ramses on the Thursday podcast, so make sure you check that out.
I think
And
we've got Nicole on Wednesday too.
no, we don't anymore.
Oh,
I
didn't get the
I knew
update.
it. When he blew past that, when he blew past Wednesday, and then he said
Yeah.
Ramsey's on Thursday, I'm like, bitch, just canceled. I know what happened. I know that's how it's been going this season.
Yeah. Rob may have the reason. Nothing crazy. Just she was not able to make it there on Wednesday night.
Life gets in the way. I've
Yeah.
learned that.
So that's what's going on there. I believe I just
Great
saw,
non-answer, Taryn.
yes, I believe I just saw Dom tweet out. We talked about House MD, the television show. I talked about the Dom from Dom and Colin podcast. That was a lot of fun. Make sure you check that out. We just
And
wrapped
I
up-
talked with Colin yesterday. So
Oh, there you go.
How about that?
What
yeah.
What'd you talk to Colin about?
The challenge.
There you go. So
Yeah.
check out
So you're compartmpartmentalizing with one half, and I
Yes.
was working with his.
Check out the two separate halves
Teammate.
of Dom and Colin, whether you're a challenge fan or a House fan. Lots of fun to be had. Okay, there it is. That's our show. I am at Armstrong Town on Twitter. Melissa is at Melissa with 3 A's. Brent is at One Lucky K. Alex is at Alex Kidwell. Make sure you hashtag Big Brither with 2 eyes. So for Brent, Melissa, and Alex, I am Taryn Armstrong. We will see you next time.